Have you ever wondered what it feels like to watch your entire future disappear in less than 60 seconds? To sit in a room full of family members, listening as everything you believed about love, loyalty, and fairness is ripped away? Because that's exactly what happened to me. My name is Sophia Carter, and the day my father's will was read, I learned that sometimes strangers can treat you better than your own blood. And before this story is over, you'll understand why the people who left me with nothing eventually wished they had never crossed me. At first, my life looked perfect. I grew up in a wealthy family. My father owned a successful manufacturing company and several commercial properties across the state. We lived in a beautiful home, drove expensive cars, and never worried about money. From the outside, we looked like the perfect family, but appearances can be dangerously misleading. My older brother Ethan had always been my father's favorite. He got the expensive gifts. He got the praise. He got endless second chances. Whenever he made mistakes, everyone excused him. He's just finding himself. He'll mature. He's under pressure. Meanwhile, I worked twice as hard just to receive half the recognition. Still, I never complained, because despite everything, I loved my family, especially my father. As he got older, his health began declining. The strong businessman I admired slowly became weaker. During those final years, Ethan suddenly became very involved in Dad's affairs. He handled paperwork, attended meetings, managed finances. At the time, I thought he was helping. I couldn't have been more wrong. Then came the phone call that changed everything. My father had passed away. The funeral was heartbreaking. Hundreds of people attended. Business partners spoke about his achievements. Friends shared memories. Family members cried. At least most of them did. Looking back now, Ethan didn't seem heartbroken. He seemed impatient, almost like he was waiting for something. A week later, our family gathered inside a law office for the reading of the will. I remember every detail. The cold air, the expensive wooden furniture, the smell of coffee, and the smile on Ethan's face. The lawyer cleared his throat and began reading. At first, everything sounded normal. Then my world shattered. To my son, Ethan Carter, I leave the family home. All company shares, investment accounts, and remaining assets. My heart skipped a beat. I waited for my name. Surely there was more. Surely this couldn't be everything. Then the lawyer continued. To my daughter, Sophia Carter, I leave the sum of $1. $1. That's it. No explanation. No apology. No reason. Just $1. The room went silent. I couldn't move. Couldn't think. Couldn't breathe. Then I noticed something. My mother's expression wasn't shocked. Neither was Ethan's. In fact, Ethan looked pleased. That was the moment I realized this wasn't a surprise. They already knew. Walked out of that office feeling numb. The following weeks were even worse. No one called. No one explained. No one cared. The family I had spent my entire life loving simply moved on, as if I no longer existed. Financially, things became difficult. I sold my car, moved into a tiny apartment, picked up extra work wherever I could find it. Some nights I cried myself to sleep, wondering what I had done wrong. Why wasn't I enough? Why had my own father left me with nothing? Meanwhile, Ethan was living like royalty. Social media was filled with photos of luxury vacations, expensive watches, sports cars, and champagne celebrations. Every picture felt like another knife in my back. Months passed. Then one evening, everything changed. I received a phone call from an unknown number. The voice belonged to my father's former accountant, a man named Richard. His tone was serious. Sophia, there are some things your father wanted you to know. The next morning we met. Richard looked nervous. He placed a thick folder on the table. Then he said something that completely shocked me. Your father never intended to leave you with nothing. My heart started racing. Richard explained that years before his death, my father had quietly created a separate trust, a trust known only to a handful of people, including him and me. Inside the folder was a handwritten letter. I recognized my father's handwriting immediately. My hands trembled as I opened it. The first sentence nearly made me cry. Sophia, if you're reading this, then Ethan has done exactly what I feared. I kept reading. My father explained that he had noticed Ethan becoming increasingly greedy. He worried that wealth would destroy him, so he created a hidden trust containing several undeveloped properties. Land that appeared worthless. Land nobody in the family wanted, including Ethan. The letter ended with words I will never forget. True character is revealed when people believe there are no consequences. I sat there speechless, but the biggest surprise was still coming. When Richard showed me the locations of those properties, I nearly fell out of my chair. A massive technology development project had recently been approved nearby. Property values had exploded. The land wasn't worthless anymore. It was worth more than $20 million. $20 million. Suddenly everything made sense. My father hadn't abandoned me. He had protected me. And unknowingly, Ethan had walked straight into the trap. Over the next 2 years, I stayed quiet. No celebrations. No announcements. No social media posts. I invested carefully, developed the properties, started new businesses, expanded strategically. While Ethan spent money, I built assets. While he chased appearances, I focused on growth. And eventually, the difference became impossible to ignore. Then karma arrived. Slowly at first, then all at once. Ethan's company began struggling. Bad decisions piled up. Investments failed. Debt increased. Lawsuits appeared. Banks started demanding payments. The mansion was refinanced. Luxury vehicles were sold. Staff members were let go. Within a few years, the empire he inherited began collapsing. One afternoon, my assistant informed me that several visitors were waiting in the lobby. When I looked at the security monitor, I froze. It was Ethan, my mother, and my aunt, the same people who had ignored me, the same people who watched me receive $1. Now they looked desperate. I invited them upstairs. The conversation was exactly what I expected. They needed money, a lot of money. My mother started crying. She talked about family, about forgiveness, about helping one another. Then Ethan leaned forward. "We're family, Sophia. Family." The same word they forgot when I needed them. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then I opened my desk drawer. Inside was a small envelope. I pulled out a single dollar bill. Slowly, I placed it on the table. The room fell silent. Ethan stared at it. My mother looked confused. "What does this mean?" she asked. I smiled. "It means I'm returning exactly what my family believed I was worth." Nobody had an answer. For the first time in their lives, they experienced the consequences of their choices. I stood up and walked toward the window. Then I said something I had waited years to say. "You inherited everything. Figure it out." They left without another word, and I thought that was the end. But life had one final surprise waiting for me. A month later, my father's attorney contacted me. Before his death, my father had recorded a private video, one that had never been released. When I watched it, tears filled my eyes. My father looked directly into the camera. "If Ethan is watching this after losing everything, then he has proven my point." He paused, then continued. "Wealth doesn't build character. It reveals it." Finally, he looked straight ahead and smiled. "Sophia, if you've succeeded despite what happened, then you were always the rightful heir." At that moment, years of pain disappeared. Not because of the money, not because I had won, but because I finally understood the truth. My father never abandoned me. He believed in me. Today, I own a business empire larger than the one he left behind. Ethan works an ordinary job. My mother lives quietly. And every time I pass one of the properties that changed my life, I remember something important. Sometimes losing everything is the first step toward becoming unstoppable. And sometimes the people who think they've beaten you are simply setting the stage for your greatest victory. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, because the next story might be even more shocking than this one.